You've implemented a lot of strategies over the last 25 years, of course. What would you say if you were going to offer the listener some advice? What have you found strategically to help build a business that not only grows, that gets a spike, but is able to maintain that long-term success? So if I ask that a slightly more concise way, what have you found to work in your business that continues to work versus flavor of the day?
Sure. The thing that pays more dividends than anything ever is arguably the thing that's always paid more dividends than ever throughout all of human history, and that is relationships. One of the biggest mistakes that people can make when going into business for themselves is to go at it alone. I did it for many years because I was so young. I was scared to be involved in a business networking group or get in community or even ask for mentorship because I just felt kind of silly because I was young. Now, other people listening to this podcast might not be as young as when I started, but they might be young from a starting a business kind of perspective, you know? And so it might be easy to feel like, I feel so ignorant. I don't want to ask for help. And because especially my personality type doesn't want to ask for help. But the fact is people who have the experience want to help. I'm thrilled to get to help somebody else shortcut something that was a problem for me. So I always say everybody needs 4 people in their life to begin with. They need somebody to look up to, somebody that's ahead of them, that's done the thing that they're doing before, that they can aspire to be like. That could be a mentor that they personally know, or it could just be somebody who they've read all their books, listened to all their podcasts, all those kind of things. They need somebody to look up to. Second, they need people to stand beside them. And you need somebody who's shoulder to shoulder, walking through life in the same season, who understands it. It's community. We weren't meant to be alone. So you need somebody to stand up, somebody to look up to, somebody to stand beside them, somebody who's looking up to them. I think everybody needs to be teaching somebody something. It's how we learn the most as human beings. And last, everybody needs somebody who believes in them when they don't believe in themselves. I always tell a story from many years ago. I was probably 20 years old. I've been in business for 3 years. By been in business, to be clear, I'll put that in heavy air quotes because I was probably making $20,000 a year in total revenue and waiting tables and doing all the other things. And I had just gotten married.
Wow.
And I didn't think I could make it work. I didn't. And so I went to work for my uncle in the insurance business. And he had a nice house in the mountains and a nice house on the beach and drove a nice black Mercedes. And I thought, I'd like to have that. And he needed an exit plan. I needed an entry plan. It seemed obvious, So I went and worked for him for 6 months. I kind of put my design marketing business on the shelf. It kind of became a hobby versus a business. I still was doing it, but it was not my priority. But 6 months into working with my uncle, as much as it was the best business education I could have possibly ever had, I came home one day and sat next to my wife and I was crying because I'm a bit of a crier. And I said, babe, I can do this, but I don't think it's what I'm made for. And I think I can make a lot of money at it, but I don't think I'll ever love it. And she said,
Wow.
So quit and do what you love.
Yep.
And that was the day that I knew I married the right woman, number one. And it was the day that I said, I'm going to put this thing in full gear. We're going all the way, and I'm either going to crash it and it's going to be clear and obvious this is not what God has for our future, or it's going to work. Yeah. And I'm standing here 26 years later to say we've grown every single year, except for 1 year we were down by 1%. But every single year other than that 1 year for 26 years in a row, by the grace of God. And so it's been a fun journey.
Yeah. There is so much to be said for burning your boats and just going all in, because if you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or you've got this plan B that is so readily available. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a plan B. We probably need something to fall back on, but when we do, and we know that plan B is there, we're human beings. Too easy. It's too easy to take the exit ramp, versus the only way out is through. I have to get through this, and every business leader I've spoken with and founder that's been successful, it's, you hear, you read the books, you listen to the podcast, you're like, well, man, that guy or that gal, they really crushed it. They don't see all that work that led up to that success,
Yeah. And it's a journey, I always tell people it's going to get hard. Like a good hike is going to get hard. And there's going to be times where you're going down here and time where it's level. A couple months ago, we got to go, my wife and I and another couple, out to Italy, and we hiked this amazing area in Positano. It's called the Hike of the Gods or something like that. And it was one of those things where it was so stunningly beautiful, but then you'd turn a corner and you'd see this hill ahead and you were like, oh man, I don't know if I can make it up another hill.
Yeah.
And that's business, like you're going to think you've done it. You're going to see this beautiful landscape, and you're going to turn a corner and go, all right, let's climb, and this is
Yep.
going to be hard. But I always say too, it's like, gosh, when you look at your own, like all of us, when we look at our lives, it's so often that the things that were the most difficult to get through are the things that we were so thankful to endure. Because there's a great book by a guy named Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning, and in it he talks about the three core things that people need. One of them is community. That's what I talked about a minute ago. People need to get around people who can support and encourage them. Two is a project to work on. Well, you've always got a project to work on if you're running your own business. But three is this: it's a redeeming perspective on your suffering. And I think that it's naive to if you're starting a business, you should be very careful about spending too much time on the internet, especially social media, because there's so many people that are so full of, I won't use the words, but things that aren't true. Let's put it that way. And they don't show the full story. It is hard, but it's worth it, if it's what you're made for.
Yeah. The reason the view from the mountaintop is so gorgeous is because you made the effort to get there.
That's right.
Put in the effort to get there. Well, where you've also mentored business owners and helped other people, other business owners. Where have you seen other small to mid-sized business owners make the mistakes? Like if you had to name a top one or two mistake that people too often repeat as a new business owner, what have you noticed?
There's a couple of things. The one I already mentioned, obviously, is not getting in community. But the next one I would say is trying to go too fast. I always say there's a reason that the old fable of the tortoise and the hare sustains over time. I'm that guy. It's not that sexy on Instagram because it's not growing that fast. I mean, maybe it is now because it's a multi-million-dollar business, but it wasn't for 20 years. Dave Ramsey always says, I busted my butt for 20 years and then everybody said I was an overnight success, and that's how it works. But moving too fast, I always say, look, if you're driving in a car and you're going incredibly fast and getting in an accident, you might die. You're certainly going to total your car. But if you're going slow enough and you get in an accident, I mean, you might have a little repair work to do, but it's not the end of the world. You keep going. And so slow and steady wins the race. Be patient. Patience and resilience are the key virtues of entrepreneurship, not hustle. People think it's just hustle. Yeah, you got to be able to work hard for sure. Work-life balance is often a fallacy in the early days. You've got to be able to put the pedal to the metal, as far as like being willing to work hard. But at the end of the day, it's resilience. It's being able to get back up when you fall down. One of the greatest analogies I heard one time is they said everybody has a massive pile of failures in their life. And the question is, are you laying at the bottom of those failures or are you standing on the top of them? And I choose to stand on the top of them. And so that's what people do, as well as the other mistake that they make is something will go wrong and they'll go, well, this must not be what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, if I had a list, which I don't because I've forgotten more than I've remembered, of all the times where I screwed stuff up or failed at something or an idea didn't work, it would be exponentially longer than the things that did work. And so endurance, perseverance, and willing to get back up when you fall down, and just slow and steady wins the race.
Jay, you are dropping just golden nuggets here. And I love that. A pile of failures. Are you laying at the bottom of those failures or standing on top of those? Like that is wisdom, full stop. And so many people, and you're right, social media's got it. It's all backwards and fake. But we are going to fail.
Yeah.
Do we learn from that failure? Do we stack that like a brick and then start from there and go on? And everybody says it's hard, but until you do it, you realize, okay, this is hard, but I like to say it's harder than I thought it was going to be, because when we say this is hard, it feels like it'll never end, right?
Right.
It's harder than we thought it would be, but it does get better.